New location, felt like a change. Welcome to the other office. Today I want to talk about exercise. It's something I used to absolutely hate as a kid. Woofer! Something I used to absolutely exercise. So something that I used to absolutely hate as a kid, now something I do every day and is really just part of my daily routine. How did I start and how did I get to where I am today? I guess when I started dieting, it was something that I didn't really feel the need to do. As I said in my last video, I wasn't eating carbs, so I didn't really feel the need to burn anything off. After a few weeks, I really wanted to start incorporating exercise. Now, I've never been one for running, never been one for doing long periods of exercise. I suppose the biggest key takeaway for me was finding a way to make it enjoyable. Now, if you're looking to start exercise for the first time, you need to find not only a motivator, but a way to make it enjoyable. Otherwise, you'll do it for a week and then you won't do it anymore. Keep in mind, I started in the middle of winter. Motivation wasn't exactly high to get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold, but I found something that motivated me and I found something that I really enjoyed. Firstly, that was walking my dog. As you all know and have heard, I love walking Chuck each and every morning. So to start off, that was really just walking Chuck to and from the dog park every morning. That's about 750 meters each way. We would walk down in the morning, we'd walk back, and while I was down there I'd walk a couple of laps of the park, but nothing too strenuous. Just get a couple of Ks under my belt in the morning. From that graduated to walking a little bit further. So I'd actually drive Chuck a bit further away from the dog park and we'd walk down together. I remember the first run I ever did was actually over in Adelaide. I went over for a work conference almost exactly 2 months after I started dieting. And I decided to get up early one morning and go for a run around Adelaide in the city. And I did about 3 Ks, I think it was, and was absolutely cooked at the end of it. Hadn't run for years and years, and it was just absolutely exhausting, but I felt so good after doing it. From there, running sort of became part of my daily routine. I replaced those walks with runs, so that couple of K down to the dog park with Chuck became a run. And then while I was down at the dog park, I found myself doing some run-throughs while I was there. The dog park is about a 500 meter round sort of park, and I would find myself walking half of it and then running the other half. So I would do that, say 10 times while I was down there. One thing I wish I'd found from the start is the Couch to 5K program. If you haven't heard of it, Google it. It's basically how to get from not being able to run at all to being able to run 5Ks without stopping. I wish I'd found it from the start because it breaks it down into sort of daily and weekly routines. Would have been really helpful, but I was just starting from scratch. The other thing I mentioned was finding a way to make it really enjoyable. Now, for me, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's 8 degrees outside isn't overly enjoyable. Even Chuck didn't enjoy that. For me, it was finding something to do while I was out walking or running that made it quite enjoyable. For me, and you're gonna laugh, but that was Pokemon Go. I'm a massive nerd at heart and I make no secrets of that. But for me, that was great because I was able to get outside, get moving, get active, and have something to take my mind off the fact that I was just slugging away, running like a madman at 5:30 in the morning. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all positive. I've actually stacked it in front of heaps of people a couple of times on the footpath, scraped up elbows and legs and knees while staring at my phone while playing Pokemon Go while I've been running. Not ideal, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would certainly recommend finding something to just make it enjoyable and sounds horrible, but to make it bearable in the initial stages. So after the first couple of runs, it then became kind of a daily thing. I started running at work, take a break, refresh, and keep myself active. I was still doing my walks. I think the next biggest piece of advice is to keep your exercise fresh. Don't do the same thing over and over and over again. Like your food, you'll just get bored. Every time I found myself doing that, I would change it up and do something different. So I started with walking, and then it was running, and then I started running at work. Then it became doing push-ups and sit-ups, which I would do in the morning or at night, and just to get my core strength up. And when I started, I could barely do 20 of each. Now I can do sort of 50 plus consistently, and I do that 2 to 3 times a day. Now, I've never been in a position where I've had to try and get bigger. I've always wanted to try and get smaller, but I have started to incorporate going to the gym now as well, so that mixes up my week. I go to the gym a few times a week. I do rowing, I do a bit of everything. I'm not one of these gym junkies who's all about getting massive, but it's just a good way to mix it up, keep it fresh, and not even know what I'm going to do until I literally step foot into the gym and go, hey, today I feel like jumping on the bike, or today I feel like doing some leg press, whatever it is. I don't even know the technical terms of half the stuff I do. My latest fad over the last couple couple of weeks has been the Fitbit watch that I picked up a couple of weeks ago, and obviously tracks my steps and whatnot and tracks my workouts. So it's been really cool to sort of keep track of how much I'm moving each and every day and challenge myself to achieve my goal. I found myself doing at least sort of 12 to 15,000 steps a day. Some days I do up to 25, 30,000 steps. Now you might be wondering how the hell I do that many steps in a day, and one thing I've tried to incorporate into my daily routine is going for a half-hour walk after meals, particularly a big meal, and particularly at dinner time. I'll have a meal and then I'll go out for a walk for half an hour. It actually goes really quick. I pop my headphones in, I listen to a podcast, the time flies by, the steps fly up, and it just gives me, I suppose it really just sort of calms my anxiety in terms of what I've eaten. If I feel bloated, I can know I'll go for a walk and it makes me feel like I've walked it off. There actually are studies that suggest it's really good at recentering your blood sugar levels going for a walk after a meal, particularly as I said at dinner time, because obviously that's when you kind of settle down for the day. But if you can just pop out even 15 minutes, chuck in a podcast. I've got like dozens on the go, so each day I've got a stack of new podcasts to listen to. It keeps it fresh while I'm walking or running or doing whatever I'm doing in the gym. I find it really enjoyable as a way to kind of switch off on those days when you're really sore and tired. You can just switch something on and it takes your mind away from the fact that your feet are pounding on the pavement, your legs are exhausted. Don't get me wrong, it's not all good. My exercise has made me at times quite anxious. For example, if I'm really busy on a certain day and I just don't have the time to get outside and exercise, I tend to beat myself up and I get really anxious about it. Similarly, if it's raining and it's outside of my control, I can't get outside for a run, I'll tend to sit at home beating myself up, or I'll tend to starve myself a little bit more that day, which is certainly not good. I suppose it's something I'm just trying to deal with. That's why I've incorporated the walks instead of pushing myself to run. I was running each and every day and my legs were just so fatigued. I was struggling to get out of bed a lot of mornings. Find something that motivates you, find a way to make it enjoyable. If that's going with a friend, if that's playing Pokemon Go, if that's putting some podcasts in your ears, find a way to make it enjoyable, motivate yourself. Obviously weight loss was my goal, and then just keep it fresh, mix it up. Even just the little things can make all the difference, like walking to go get your lunch, taking the stairs when you're at work, parking further away from your building. One thing I've been doing a whole lot recently is walking down to the shops. If I need to go to Coles to pick something up, I know it's a 15-minute walk down to the shops, 15 minutes back, and that walk just can make all the difference between getting my steps up and making me feel good about myself for that day. I certainly wouldn't encourage going as crazy and as over the top as I have with some of this stuff in terms of the way I see it. I suppose I just wanted to shed some light on how I sort of started, got into it, built it up over time, why I might act the way I act on a certain day if I can't get out of the house, if I can't exercise, if I'm stuck in a workshop all day, or I'm busy and I just don't have the time to get on my feet. It really does bother me. It really gets to me. It's something I'm working on, but it's going to take some time. I hope this has answered some questions, and I know it's probably raised a few more questions than it might have answered, but I guess I just really, as I said, wanted to shed some light on what goes through my mind in regards to my exercise and how it's built up from then to now. If you do want to know more, or you do have questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer questions or provide more insight. Anything I can do to help you guys understand what goes on up in here. As always, thanks again for watching, guys. I've got a woofer to go tend to. I'll see you later.